You buy this camera expecting cinematic color, you've watched the reviews, you've already set it up properly, and still, when you open the footage, something feels off. It's not bad, it's just not quite what you had in mind. At this point, we're done talking about settings. This is about how to gently lift the color of the Osmo Nano, or any camera that shoots D-Log M10-bit. This is also works for the Pocket 3, Action 5, Action 6, even the Mini 5 Pro, everything that supports the 10-bit D-Log M. I'll walk you through how I do it, nothing complicated, nothing overly technical. I'll show it in Premiere Pro and CapCut, so whether you're editing on a laptop, on your phone, the logic stays the same. The goal here isn't to chase a look, it's to end up with a color setup you understand and you can reuse. And if you're wondering whether your footage is already set up the right way, I've broken that down in another video. You can come back to it later. For now, let's just focus on making this footage feel right. Okay, for the first part, now we're gonna use the Premiere Pro. So yeah, let's start with the first one. We can go to Lumetri color right here, or some people love to use the adjustment layer. So basically you can just add a new adjustment layer right here. So this is the adjustment layer. And now this is the first step we need to do before we adjust the color, which is correcting the exposure. But if you're already using your camera in the right way, the right settings, you actually don't need to do a lot of adjustment with the exposure. Actually, this footage still looks a bit flat, so we need to adjust the shadows a little bit. We can play with blacks just to make sure we can use like Lumetri scopes here to monitor the color brightness. So as you can see, the white wall right here, it's on a safe area. That's what we need to keep an eye on. For example, if I adjust the whites, the exposure on the wall right there is blowing up. We don't need that to be overexposed. So we can just put it on the safe area. Just make sure the blacks is not touching the zero, so we can get a solid shadow. After we adjusting the shadow a little bit more, as we can see, the shadow area in here is going down. Actually, this footage is already feels right in my eyes. And now the next step, we can play around with the color, which is we're playing with the hue now. In the curve section right here, we can slide down a bit and there's the hue. For example, I want to play around with the blue and the green color. We can just lock the hue there. We can adjust the blue color on however we want it to look like. So a simple explanation on how to use the hue section. So what we need is to pick the color we want to change in the video. For example, I want to change the blue color. What I need to do first is lock the color here, and then I can adjust the blue without changing any color around that area. I'm making the blue a bit lighter, and then we can play around with the yellow and the green color, which is the leaves in here. So I can adjust it a bit warm or a bit more cool. And then the pop-up color here is the roof. As we can see, that is orange. We can adjust the orange right here. And as you can see right here, it's also changing my skin color. So we need to make it just natural as possible. And up here, as we can see, there is a hue versus saturation. It actually works the same like the hue versus hue down here, but it now works for the saturation. For example, if we're choosing the blue again, we lock here and we can increase the saturation of the blue color without changing any saturation around that color. If we going down, so now the blue is gone. But yeah, I think it looks cinematic, right? But if we increase the blue, it looks more colorful. But yeah, I think we can leave it like about here. It's already cool. So it looks better than before. It looks more cinematic. So I'll put it on the screen on how it looks like before and after. It actually works for another footage too. For example, this is the footage on the middle of the day too, and it works pretty the same. So this is the before and this is the after. And you can just copy paste it to another footage if you want it. And for example, this is the sunset footage, and I can just copy the adjustment layer and the footage looks pretty cool, but there's some slight adjustment that I want to adjust with this footage, which is the white balance. If we're back to this footage, actually the white balance is already neutral as I set it to 5500 when I record this footage, so it looks pretty neutral. But for some footage like the dawn or in the sunset, most likely we'll need to adjust the white balance again in the post-production. If we're talking about sunset, you want that your footage just look like the Dune movie, right? So I need to adjust the white balance first. We can change the temperature to more warmy footage, and we can play around with the tint. A lot of people using green tint like this, so their footage looks a bit more yellowish. But if you're changing the tint to the right, which is to the magenta, you will get a reddish or pinkish sunset, which is pretty cool too. It depends on what kind of sunset do you want. But as you can see, I don't really need to adjust the brightness, but it already works perfectly. But if you need to, you can play around with the shadows, you can play around with the brightness, you can also play around with the highlights, whether you want to decrease or increase your highlights. You can play around with contrast, but actually I'm gonna set the tint again. I think I want the footage to look a bit normal for sunset, just a little bit warmer. And okay, this is good to go. And now we can play around with the curves. So now I'm gonna change the orange and yellow color, just slightly increase this just a little bit. So as you can see, I can play around with the red here, or I can play with the yellow color right here. So yeah, I think this is enough and pretty cool, right? So now we're back to midday footage. I can just apply the same LUT as previous LUT and it works perfectly. I don't think I need to adjust anything again. So basically, I've made a free color preset for you guys to test out. It works for bright lighting situation, for example in the middle of the day just like this. You can download it with the link down below. It's actually very easy to apply the LUT. All you need to do is go to the creative section in the Lumetric color, and then you can go to look. You can browse, and then you can just double click the LUT and it applies automatically. And actually this LUT is work for many types of condition. What all you need to adjust is the exposure, but I think for this footage it's already looking perfect, so I don't need to adjust anything actually. So let's try this out in CapCut. Like I said, the logic still the same. This is the raw footage, the 10-bit D-Log M from the Nano. If we go to adjust right here on the bottom, and we can set almost everything like I did in the Premiere Pro. For example, this is the brightness, this is the contrast, saturation, the grab. The first thing we need to do is to edit the contrast. Actually, we can just edit the shadow since I don't want to blow up the brightness too much. So we can find shadow right here, and then we can adjust the shadow like -10. Yeah, this is better. And let's see if we can adjust the highlights even better, like -5 to keep the wall on the right clear. And we need to edit the HSL like I said before. This is the most important part when we edit the color. So when the exposure is right already, we can continue to edit the color. Just like I did in Premiere Pro, we can adjust the saturation of the blue. I can change the hue here. I just want a light blue, and then just a little bit extra saturation for the pool. But we can decrease the color on the sky and the overall blue, so we keep it simple and nice. And then the green, I wanna boost the saturation so we can get a colorful leaf over there. And then the yellow, we can adjust the saturation of the yellow a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, it's there actually. And then for the red, it's actually for the roof. We can boost the saturation for the red, and then the hue we can change a little bit. So basically the roof color is more orangey, so we can go to orange. We can edit the saturation right here, and then we can change the hue a little bit. I think was pretty nice already. There's no more to edit, and yeah, that's basically it. This is the free version of CapCut, but if you wanna to get the Pro CapCut, you can adjust a little bit more with filters. You can choose any filters you want, so it's easy, right? If you look at this footage now, it probably feels different, right? Not too much, not overdone, just clearer. Like the camera is finally showing what you saw when you shot it. And that's really the point of color grading. We're not impressing anyone with techniques, but to get out of the way of the story you're trying to tell. It should be seamlessly cinematic. Once you understand this flow, you don't need to start over and over again every time you open a new project. You just adjust a little depending on the light, the mood, and the moment. Just a quick reminder, the LUT that I give on the link down below, it's totally free, you can use it, and it works for 10-bit D-Log-M footage only. If this helps you, please feel free to come back to this video or apply the LUT to your next clip and see how it feels. And I really love to make another video about the Nano in the future, which is I will be making the top 10 or top 5 creative shots with the Nano. Most people buying this camera, they see my review, they see the best settings that I made in the past video, and now you're learning to get the best color out of it, and probably you're using this camera like a regular camera. So that's basically pretty much it from me. I'll see you in the next one.